we have a great panel for you today. So let me start sharing a little bit about our programming today. So this is part of our Más Fuertes Heritage Month celebration, celebrando Latino and Latina leaders in the corporate sector. We thank you for tuning in with us today. Those of you who are live, remember you can always post your questions to the panelists on live. We have a monitor that will be checking your Facebook messages, and we'll be happy to ask the questions on your behalf. So today we have this distinguished panel of Latino and Latina leaders who have made a great impact in our community. We have Andres Gonzalez from Freighter Health Systems. We have Cicla from CIBC, or Canadian Imperial Bank of Commerce, and Amanda Romano from Paychex. Erika Villafuerte, very known leader, fearless leader in the community, and our very own Alfredo Martin of North Shore Bank. Before we start, I get to introduce myself. I'm your moderator. My name is Nelson Soler. I'm the president of the Latino Chamber of Commerce Southeastern Wisconsin. I'm also one of the founders of the Latino Entrepreneur Network, and I'm myself an entrepreneur. The Latino Chamber of Commerce mission is to foster the economic development of Wisconsin by advocating, strengthening, and promoting the growth and development of Latino and other minority and emerging enterprises, with the goals of providing increased access to capital, business opportunities, job creation, and capacity building programs. Our mission is to promote, the mission of the Latino Entrepreneurial Network is to promote entrepreneurial awareness and education through bilingual coaching, professional development, and networking. Both organizations are bringing this program for you today as part of our Más Fuerte business efforts. So I encourage you to learn more about our programming. We have a computer basics course for those of you who struggle with the technology during this pandemic. We'll be partnering with MATC, and we'll be offering a full training that you can get college credit for at a very discounted price for members, and $150 and $199 for the general public. You'll get credits with MATC should you continue or want to continue studies with MATC. You had that under your belt. We also will continue with our Más Fuertes recovery program that has focused on financial literacy and financial topics that are important for businesses during the pandemic. And our next session will be on the 20th at noon in Espanol, on the 22nd at noon in English. If you wish to contact the Chamber or the Latino Entrepreneurial Network, these are the ways you can contact us by looking at our websites, or you can just simply call us at 414-888-2270. So without further ado, I will show to you and welcome our distinguished panelists. And I gotta do a shout out to Ivan Cicla because he's calling from Mexico. So despite the fact that he's handling a family issue there, he just with us today. So here we have Andres Gonzalez, we have Alfredo Martin, Erika Villafuerte, Amanda, and you'll hear Ivan when he speaks as he is remotely. So the first question for you, we're celebrating your leadership in this community as great leaders in the corporate sector. There is a doctor that had made this great book called that talks about your story and how your story shapes you, but also influence others around you. And she feels that your story is your power to lead. So I will be interested in listening. What is your story? What is your power? What is your role? Tell us a little bit about that. And I'm gonna call you in this order at this time. So I'm gonna give the microphone to Andres Gonzalez. So Andres.
Wonderful. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Wonderful. Well, first of all, Nelson, mil gracias for having me here, and thank you for having me as part of this esteemed, panel. I mean, it's wonderful to be with Amanda, Erika, certainly with Alfredo and Ivan. So thank you for having me. You know, in terms of my story, I will tell you that I was thinking about that in preparation to this panel today. And what I will share is, you know, I come from very humble beginnings. Actually, I come from the same island as you do, Nelson, from Puerto Rico. And what's interesting is I remember back in the early 80s when my mother decided to uproot us and take us to Cleveland, Ohio, which is where actually I was raised. And I never, honestly, until recently, made the connection of how I ended up in healthcare. And actually, it goes back to those days because obviously, back in the 80s, as some of you probably remember, I'm probably older than many of you in the panel here and in the audience, we didn't have, compliance mandates in healthcare. And so I became my mother's, interpreter. And I remember how difficult and painful it was for her having to share some of her most intimate things through me, right, in a healthcare setting. And I remember thinking after some of those encounters that I was not prepared. I did, obviously I wasn't medically equipped to be able to interpret for my mom. And yet here I am having to do my best as I'm also learning the language, right, and navigating the waters here in a different country. And so that really, I think as I go back now and I reflect, that was probably one of the most powerful encounters that really shaped my lens and my thinking about going into healthcare. Certainly, I didn't land in healthcare right away. I ended up in the Latino serving, in a Latino serving community-based organization. And I actually spent my first 10 years, my first decade running two not-for-profits there, and then ended up making it the trek into healthcare at the Cleveland Clinic. And, there you have it. I mean, my career in healthcare really then flourished from there in the last 25 years. That's what I've been doing, work in healthcare. But it really starts there. It starts with that encounter. And I actually vouch to change that, for others. And interestingly enough, it has become a full circle. And I close with this particular comment, which is in my current role at Freighter and the Medical College of Wisconsin, language services, both interpreters and translators, report into my function. So now I have the ability to ensure that we're providing to everyone that comes through our doors, both culturally and linguistically equitable care in every single encounter. And to me, that's really the biggest testament and the best way that I can actually build a legacy and serve our community, especially my Latino community in this particular, in southeastern Wisconsin. So that's a little bit about my story.
Thank you very much, Andres. And now we'll go to Amanda Romano of Paychex to tell us her story.
Hi, Nelson. Also, thank you very much for thinking of all of us here and including us. Again, similar to Andres, thinking about, okay, what is my story? How did I get here? What is my passion? And I tell you, Nelson, and everyone out here watching, I was born and raised here in Racine, Wisconsin. And I had no intention of ever getting into business. Funny thing is that I went to school and became an archaeologist and had no intention of getting into the business realm. However, I'm married and I have 4 sons, and archaeology doesn't pay the bills, right? So I started out my career with a corporation in the banking realm, and I was in banking for 8 years and worked my way up. And I had found a mentor at one of the banks that I was working at. And she had asked me once, Amanda, why don't you have bilingual at the top of your resume? I said, well, I'm not sure. Why would I? And she said, there's a lot of disparity in inclusion within the state of Wisconsin. We're way up here north, you don't really think Latino when you think of Wisconsin until recently, right? So I said, okay, let's do it. And ever since I did that, Nelson, I can tell you that the opportunities and the doors have just opened up for me. And it really made me proud of my heritage and proud of helping others in the Hispanic Latino community. So I ended up being recruited by Paychex because there was a new multicultural initiative in 2015, but those were in all the states where there's way more Latinos, right? South California, Texas, New Jersey, but there's not really much going on in Wisconsin. So they said, we want you to come in and write your own playbook for this position, and you're going to be the multicultural rep for the Midwest. So I said, okay, let's do it. And I started out in my first week, I had met Nelson, and I went to South Milwaukee because, you know, I'm a Racine girl, but, you know, I hadn't really experienced all of the different ethnic groups and diversity that Milwaukee alone holds. And going throughout the state of Wisconsin, I realized, you know, there are a lot of Latino groups, Latino Hispanic groups, and they're all out there in pockets. And there's just not a lot of resources. And I had found that I had a huge passion, not just for helping small business owners, um, but also, you know, the Latino Hispanic demographic, because let's face it, when I walk into a room full of corporate bigwigs, let's say, I'm not generally looking and finding anybody else that looks like myself. So I found a lack of representation. And I thought, you know what? Rather than feeling like I'm the odd one out, I'm going to really gather what makes me different and help others that look like me, that speak Spanish like me, that have small businesses like my family does from Mexico, because they all suffered in some sort of way. But through that suffering, you know, their passion and success all came through adversity. So I just really found a passion with helping local small businesses, and I have the perfect platform working for a human capital management company like Paychex. And what's really, really awesome is, you know, we built this working with the Latino Chamber. We've built this community, and we've all had success together as Latinos. And it makes me very proud to be a part of this community. So that's a little bit of my story. Thank you, Nelson.
Thank you, Amanda. So we heard from healthcare, now we heard from the human capital industry, and we have two bankers here. We cannot escape without banker representation in a Latino event. So I'm going to give the microphone to Ivan Cicla. Ivan, can you tell us a little bit about your story?
Yeah, hi Nelson. So hi everybody, thank you for having me. So my story is pretty strange how I got into banking. I actually worked in the restaurant industry for 5 years before I started working at a bank. That was during my college years. It was just a form of getting easy money, not easy money, but some money to have to spend while I was in college without being dirty all the time. As some of you may know, working in the kitchen is not the cleanest job you can have. And so working in there, just like Amanda said, there was a lack of representation that I saw in upper management and some of those higher positions. So I was at a very entry level position at the time and it was a teller. And that was back about 10 years ago. And so I saw that, but I didn't let that stop me from wanting to do more with myself. And what really drove me into doing more is once I became a banker, I always knew I wanted to help people. And as a banker, you're able to help people one-on-one on the personal side. And then I took a big interest in business banking, because once you're able to help a business owner, that business owner is able to help more people, because that business owner is going to have employees. So, you know, you're changing one life, and that life is changing 5, 6, 10, 20 more lives. So your impact is a little bigger when you're helping small business. So I didn't let that stop me, and I just kind of took it upon myself to do more each and every time. Originally, I did not want to go into banking. I didn't really want to stay in banking. I originally wanted to be a police officer, and that's why my college degree is human services and criminal justice. But ultimately, I knew that I wanted to help people, and that's what kind of drove me into doing more in banking, because I was able to impact that I had on people's finances, their lives.
Thank you, Ivan. As you know, this is the second person that comes from humble beginnings. I come from humble beginnings too, in Puerto Rico. So I'm glad to hear the story. I work also as a dishwasher. That was my first job. Wasn't fun. So sometimes the ability to migrate into those circles allow us to remain truthful to our roots and sensitive to those around us. Perfect. So now I'm going to have Erika Villafuerte. a great professional I know for a long time and has been in different fields. And I would like to hear his story.
Thank you, Nelson. Hi, everybody. It's great to be here. Like everybody else mentioned, thank you for having me and doing this. It's always been a pleasure to work with you. So just a little bit about me. I was born in Mexico, Guadalajara, Jalisco. My family moved here to Wisconsin right before I turned 2 years old. So basically I was raised here, but very proudly claim to my being born in Mexico. And like Andres had mentioned, and some of the others, one of the things that really sticks out with me is having been that person that had to translate for my mom. My mom was a single mom with 4 and 5 kids on her own, that struggle of being lower income, and going to different places with her, to the, back then we would call it the welfare office, and being the person that helped interpret, those meetings as well and things like that. And, also having been a teen mom myself and having been on Badger Care as well, I absolutely remember being treated, with a sense of discrimination, making me feel like I was unworthy because I was on Badger Care. So my heart just kind of has always gone to wanting to help people. So I didn't really realize it, kind of like Andres said as well, that that's where my path was headed because of where my past came from. But I've always been somebody that likes to help people. So I've been in different corporate positions in different insurance companies. So I've worked for the, personal lines, home and auto insurance, life insurance. I've worked for healthcare companies in the corporate office. And one of the things in all of those positions that I've often seen was a lack of sensitivity for our communities of color, and not just Latinos, all our communities of color. And they will tell you, so this is my experience, right? I would find that they would tell you, oh, we have a diversity person, we're looking to do this for diversity, but then they would box me in and they would say, you can do this, but you can't do that. And I would say, but wait a minute, there's this huge need over here. And they would say, no, this is what we're doing right now. So having gone through that side for a few years, I decided, like that quote, and I'm blanking on who said it, but, be the change you want to see. So I took a leap of faith and started my own business, still working very closely with healthcare companies. But one of the things that stood out at the last company I was with, I worked closely with the Medicare population, being a support to the marketing and sales team. And that was where I saw a huge lack of sensitivity for all cultures, right? So our older generation is often very underserved. And I've always been into health and wellness through my own journey as well, having been, heavier and unhealthy. I put 2 and 2 together of, our emotional wellness is huge to get our physical fitness in a better situation. So I started Salud First as more of a resource for the community on networking and just talking about our personal situations. And it was, something I did at, just for the community. And I got to meet a lot of wonderful people, such as yourself and different great community leaders through doing that I just did as a need that I saw. But when I was working for the healthcare company and I saw those disparities and that lack of sensitivity, it occurred to me, let me put these 2 together. Let me take that leap of faith and let me serve our Medicare population that is extremely underserved right now. And here I am. So that's just a little bit, real brief summary of where I came from and where I'm at. So thanks.
Thank you, Erika. So now we have al Senor Alfredo Martin, the North Shore Bank. Let me make sure I unmute him. So Alfredo, you wanna proceed with your story?
Thank you, Nelson. I really appreciate that. And I'd like to echo everyone's comments before, as far as being able to have this opportunity to talk to all of you today. And also, I think it's something very, in my opinion, important that what you have shared pretty much is the same in terms of my beginning. I migrated to this country with my parents when I was about 17 years old, which that was only like, I don't know, like 10 years ago, if you can believe that. But I came in with the dream of being able to take the opportunity of being a good person in society. Like I said before, I can relate to the stories that you have shared with us up to this moment, and to me, it's not any different. When I came here, I didn't speak any English, and I'm still learning, but I was able to help my parents translating, as Andres and some of you have mentioned as well. And I became involved with working for the community and with the community, in particular with the Latino Hispanic community in the Milwaukee area. Back then, I realized, based on my own family's needs, how important it was for us to understand the financial industry, being able for someone to be able to have access to financial information. And that was just based on my own family's needs. Many families, many people that migrate from Latin American countries, from other countries, are not exposed. They have never had the experience of being able to get exposed to perhaps opening a savings account or a checking account, much less being exposed to being able to qualify for credit. So as I was able to enroll myself in school, as I was able to go to college, I also was able to work for a nonprofit organization that enabled me to help people understand the financial industry, for them to be able to have access to the information that they needed in order for them to become homeowners, for instance, or in order for them to be able to fix their credit. Since then, and this is pretty much going back over 35 years, I have learned that this need is not just necessarily for the Latino Hispanic communities. We have right now over 60% of the entire United States population that is lacking in financial information, is lacking in financial access to financial services, and for them to be able to have their financial objectives, their financial I guess dreams to become true. This pretty much kind of were the main reasons why I said, my gosh, what better field to be than in a field where you're going to feel proud of what you do. You're going to be able to help others. You're going to be able to assist other people in an area that you can relate. I can relate to this because I went through this myself. My family went through this themselves. And what better way for me to say I'm going to make it easier on them? I'm going to certainly put my two cents into this equation, and for us to be able to be active, to participate, and to go the extra mile for those that need the assistance in understanding and being able to make sound financial decisions. That's where my desire and my involvement has been even much greater nowadays in being able to provide financial literacy seminars, in working with community groups, in working with organizations such as the Latino Chamber of Commerce and other organizations in the community, in making sure that people have access to financial information. It is critical. And like I said before, this is not just a need, a particular need that is particular of our communities. This is for the general population in this country.
Thank you very much, Alfredo. So we have heard that most of you are servant leaders, that you care about the community, that you're trying to provide access and address disparities. That's very encouraging. Now, the next question is kind of a compound question because some of you already answered it. So is why you do what you do, and some of you had addressed it a little bit, and what challenges have you encountered in doing what you do? So I'm gonna the first one in my screen is Andres. So I'm going to start with Andres again. So Andres, please proceed.
All right, here we go. Can you hear me? All right, wonderful. So as I mentioned earlier, because of those previous experiences that I had early on, that really shaped my lens, my thinking, my perspective of what I probably wanted to do in terms of a career. And here I am over 25 years later. The majority of my career, of course, has been spent in healthcare. This is my third healthcare system nationally that I've worked for. And so I'm a transplant here to Milwaukee, came here 5 years ago. And Freighter in the medical college, of course, brought me here as a leader to lead a number of functions, as in my capacity. So what I will say though is that why do I do what I do? And so in my capacity as the Chief Diversity Officer and as a Vice President for the Health Network, I am extremely fortunate that our system has made a commitment, not just a pledge of lip service, but truly a commitment to really serve many of our underserved communities here. And many of you, of course, Erika, you mentioned that earlier. Amanda, you mentioned it as well. And I know that Alfredo, you obviously, and even Ivan, we do what we do because we want to be part of the solution, right? And not part of the problem anymore. And so in my case, when I started understanding the health disparities that exist and how our community has lack of access to either, insurance, right? Having insurance, whether it's, Medicaid, Medicare, or whether it's commercially insured, or whether, your insurance determines, unfortunately, the type of care that you get, right? And we know historically how healthcare systems really have left communities behind. And so I wanted to be part of that solution. And in my case, Freighter, when I came here 5 years ago, my CEO, Kathy Jacobson, allowed me to build a strategy, and she chairs my council. And so I have the pleasure to work with her and a number of other senior leaders as well, where we're looking at how does Freighter, right, can make a difference in our community. And so the way in which we do that is not only, as I mentioned before, providing culturally and linguistically equitable care, but also investing through LEN, through the Latino Chamber, right, to make sure that economic vitality is part of the solution in our community. Also around farmers market, it's about, connecting with our Latino serving not-for-profits in the community. We didn't have a Latino strategy 5 years ago. Shame on us. That was really something that I learned, and quite frankly, ended up getting beat up quite a bit by a lot of our Latino leaders, and rightly so, because we were making some investments in other communities, but not in the Latino community. And so I came in and I wanted to be equitable across the board. And so now we have a full-fledged community engagement strategy that serves all of our communities. And one of them, of course, is my own Latino community. And so I'm really proud to say that this is how I can make a difference. It's about understanding, right, some of the challenges that I faced, and now being in a position of power where I can influence and I can guide my system to make greater investments in the Latino community, and certainly to pay it forward. So that's a little bit about why I do that and some of the challenges very quickly. Early on in my career, I never found my voice. And I honestly didn't dare sometimes to speak up, right, about things that I knew that we needed to do. And today, I'm fortunate that I am a senior leader in my organization, and I'm able to be at the right table and make, the right, state the right things that need to be heard, sometimes being the conscience of the organization, and ultimately, right, shaping, hopefully, the strategies that we're moving forward on behalf of Freighter, right, to ultimately make, the community an economic vitality, collective impact that we should have. And so that is honestly what drives me every day, that I can make a big difference in my community and know that everyone will be able to receive the care, or that everyone will have access to fresh fruits and vegetables, right? And we're addressing all those social determinants of health that our communities continue to struggle with. And if I can be part of that solution, then it's my why, for why I'm involved in healthcare and I try to make a difference.
Thank you, Andres. So Amanda, why you do what you do and what challenges have you experienced?
Well, Why I do what I do is it's kind of twofold. You know, there's a personal reason, and then there's the reason where I found my passion, right? So I have four sons. All we're all Hispanic Latino. We all look a little bit different than some of the other schools or colleges, different businesses that we go to, and it's very important to me to set the example that you have to use what God gave you. God gave you being from a culture and being here in the United States. And you can achieve whatever it is you want to achieve in this world, no matter where you came from, especially here in the United States, as I feel. So it's very important to me. Why I do what I do is to set the example for my children, because they're four Latino boys who are growing up, and they need to know that mom is trying to create a level playing field here in Wisconsin for our demographic, but just for them to dream and strive and succeed. The other part of why I do what I do is, like I said, a little bit answered before, is I seen how much of the disparity that was there. And it was quite heartbreaking to see that, even coming from this huge corporation who's got a ton of resources, a ton of tools to help small businesses succeed, in my community, at least, in a lot of communities around this state and this country, small businesses is really what makes the world go around, right? You have an opportunity to grow and thrive with whatever dream you have, and employ others to help them get to where they need to get. But really finding that I could make a difference for those who did not speak English, who did not have a social security, working with, ITIN, business owners or things of that nature, for, small businesses that just really needed the help and the resources. There's so many in this state, and they just didn't have the resources. So when I realized, you can use what you have and go to whatever higher levels up in the corporation you need to get the resources, to get the tools, to get the documents translated, even if I had to do it myself, that's what I was going to do. In addition, similar to Yvonne, I grew up in family-owned restaurants, family-owned businesses, and you see the things that they struggle with. And knowing that I'm in a position to help them really makes me feel good. Even if it's just one person a day, I'm going to bed happy and satisfied at night because I helped somebody with their livelihood. And in doing so, you helped how many other people with their livelihoods by maintaining and assisting, or even starting up a business, helping dreams come true. That's what makes me do what I do.
Thank you, Amanda. So thus far we have somebody who made a commitment to serve the underserved. And Amanda says that she's using what God gave her to set up an example for her family and children. So Ivan, I know you're still out there, so I'm gonna have you talk a little bit about this question. So please proceed.
So what I do, and what are some struggles that I've encountered throughout the way is, so I do it, quite frankly, because I like what I do. I like doing it because I like helping people. And I know I mentioned that earlier. I like making a change, and I like being able to see that change. And I really enjoy being able to help people and seeing, walking with them and essentially holding their hand throughout different stages of their journey. And growing up, I saw that the basic needs of people are like, how to do your taxes, how to, manage your finances. Nobody teaches you that. And especially for the parents, or those parents that come here from other parts of the world, and perhaps they didn't get the opportunity to finish school, just like my grandparents did. They weren't able to finish school. So they never really had the chance to learn it, and they really didn't have anybody to teach them. So I wanted to be that one person who's teaching them how to do the things that it's essential. It's a necessity to know how to do it and manage your finances. And it all starts in your finances, right? And I wanted to be that person to show them how to do it and help them. Some of the struggles that I encountered throughout my journey are, again, the lack of representation and the fact that sometimes, you might be overlooked because of, your background. They might want you to do something else for the company rather than focus on what you want to do, what it's going to help your people. And sometimes you're your own struggle. Like, I remember when I first started helping people in the banking industry, I thought to myself, it's going to be a struggle teaching the community the new way of banking. So, the ATM, the mobile online banking, but that was just myself holding myself back. So that, sometimes you put those barriers in front of you, but you're the only one that can remove them from you. So those are some of the struggles that I encountered. And then the other one was just sometimes, the Hispanic community might be a little more old school, and it's just finding a way to teach them that it's time to change things up a little bit. It's a new way of doing it. Sure, you can still go and make your deposit in the bank and withdraw and carry cash around with you, by showing them the why. Why is it important for you to carry your debit card over cash? And once you get past that barrier, you're able to teach them more things. But so I think some of the struggles are yourself, and another one might be that, the pushback you get from the community.
Thank you, Ivan. Great thoughts there that we can incorporate in our discussion today. I like that concept of do not hold yourself back. I think we do that consistently. We sometimes lose confidence in our ability to do things. And as long as you're genuine, as long as you're authentic and do it with integrity, I think you can accomplish a lot. So Erika, can you tell us a little bit about the why and your challenges, please?
Yeah, sure. So, just like you mentioned, kind of picking back off of what I originally started with, seeing those struggles, having lived those struggles, just really wants you to be part of the solution. And having been in the different fields. So for example, when I worked with home and auto insurance, I would often get a lot of our immigrant populations, not just Latino, but people that didn't speak English well, in the different communities, coming in because they got pulled over by the police, and that's the only way they could get their car back is if they would, show proof of insurance. But if it wasn't for that, they would have never come in. They didn't know why they need insurance. They didn't understand why they had to have this new bill. And at that time, I was actually having some difficulties with the organization I was working with, because a lot of these communities were lower income. So I'd help them with, as much as they could afford, but it was usually the lowest amount that they could get away with. And I would get some pushback like, well, we don't even want to work with people that won't go at least at this level. And, that's a waste of my time because I only make X amount of dollars off of that policy. And I started just seeing, again, the lack of sensitivity. And I would say, well, do you realize that they're even, probably going to be struggling to pay for their groceries now because they had to get this. So little things like that I started to see. And when I was doing those type of roles, I remember I started also getting, a lot of people coming in and saying, hey, I'm about to get my lights cut off. Can you please help me call the, We Energies and because I don't have anybody that speaks English in my whole world, and you're the only person I know that speaks Spanish. Can you help me? And I would see often, unfortunately, and I think things have changed. I think there's a lot more people in our communities that are willing to help. But at that time, they would say, I asked XYZ person and they told me that's not their job. So I would say, well, I'm happy to do it. No, that's not my job either. I would think, but it's going to take me a few minutes, and I would call for them. And before I knew it, I was calling other people like, hey, where's some other resources for them? And it just became holistic. And then people would tell me they're starting a business. And then I would say, well, okay, well, let me call around and see who can help you with that. Because, again, I think our emotional health is huge. to make sure our physical health is as best as it can be. And when you're dealing with all of that, you're not going to be focusing on, you know, eating healthy and making sure you get exercise because you've got all this other stuff and you're scared. Once I was in the healthcare field right now with the Medicare population, a lot of our population is hearing that if they get on Medicaid, they'll lose their citizenship. And that, you know, that's not, that it's almost always incorrect. You know, they've heard some misinformation, but they're so scared and they don't want to come and ask anybody. And what I found is, and again, it's not, I don't think it's malicious that people aren't doing it. I think just many people aren't aware. A lot of our communities are not going to go to those offices. We have to go to them. So when I started seeing these different needs, I said, you know what, I don't mind being that extra resource, even if it's not in my specific field that I'm trying to help them with. But I go to them. I set up a resource table wherever they might be at, where there's an event, where there's, and then, you know, they cautiously approach the table and ask, what is it that you do? And almost always, okay, yeah, no, I don't qualify for Medicare, but can you help me with this? And sure, absolutely. I take their name down and then I start calling around different people to see who can help them with that. And the thing that always comes back to me is I wish if I was in that situation or somebody I care about was in that situation, I hope somebody would help them. And they ask with such a fear in their you know eyes, hoping they're asking the right person. And I'm glad that they do ask. And you know, I think that's just one of the things that really keeps me going and doing what I do, and why I touch so many different fields. You know, it's funny, people ask me like, well, you do Medicare, why are you at this networking event and why are you at that? Because, you know, I think if you're going to help one person, you have a connection with any other area that might assist them, why not be that connection? But one of the challenges that I do see often is almost in that same lines is people will say to me, well, you know, we can't recommend you because our policy doesn't let us do that. So we're going to use an interpreter 1-800 number instead. And I get why those reasonings are there, but at the same time, it leaves a lot of that scared population underserved. And what I'm finding too is for some reason when people, and maybe you know this, Nelson, being an entrepreneur yourself too, when people find out that I work with the healthcare companies, but I'm not a direct employee anymore, there's something about like, oh, wait a minute, it's your business? Oh, so you're gonna make money? Okay, hold on, I don't know if I wanna recommend you anymore. And it's like, okay, you know, but, you know, and I hold back, you know, just being completely transparent here, but whoever I'm meeting with is getting paid to meet with me to see if we align, but they don't see that. We forget what's in the best interest of the community, of whatever this resource that we can both collaborate in. And I think people get in their own heads of, this is my role, this is your role, and that's it. And that's one of the frustrations that I find. And it might sound self-serving, but it truly is, you know, the reason why I do what I do is just to be a resource for the community in any way I can. And I want to work with those same-minded people where even if I don't like you, if I know you have what this person needs, I'm definitely going to recommend you, right? And I might say, make sure you tell them I recommended you, so they know who to thank, right? But yeah, that's one of the biggest roadblocks and challenges that I see as well. But yeah, I could go on and on. I'm very passionate about that. But yeah, that's just a little bit.
Thank you, Erika. So Alfredo, what you have for us?
Well, most of us know, and it's been mentioned by both Andres, Erika, and most of you, that being part of the solution, that has been the greatest motivation for all of us to are where we are right now. And I truly believe that that's a critical factor in order for us to be successful and to overcome any challenges, any struggles. I actually see challenges and struggles as an opportunity for me to be even more creative in order for me to find solutions that we haven't even considered. And I try to convey this message to all my partners within the bank. I try to bring that message to people that I work with and for. My gosh, I bring this whole concept Whenever we have financial seminars on budgeting, on how to fix your credit, and related topics, if we are not mentally prepared for challenges, struggles, either in our lives or professions, then we're certainly going to have a very hard time to succeed. So I do bring that whole concept that let's bring the positive aspects of life. Let's be optimistic, and more than anything else, let's be hopeful. If we cannot achieve something today, even if it is something that we may consider to be impossible, it doesn't mean that we are not going to be able to achieve this goal or objective within the next 6 months or 12 months. We have seen a lot of changes everywhere, and the financial industry has been one of them. During the last 5 years, technology, for instance, has been something that has changed as to how we provide financial services. So we have to adjust to that. We have to be positive. We have to be creative again. And we have to take that challenge as an opportunity for us to how to better train ourselves, how to better train our customers, our community, and actually take advantage, and actually to become proficient in order for them to better serve themselves and to make it easier in utilizing financial services, for instance. Right now, for instance, I mean, we're going through this great thing called COVID-19, right? And we have to make adjustments as to how we serve our customers. My gosh, we're making adjustments in our daily activities, simple daily things that we did not even think about it 6 months ago, that we have to be creative. We have to think in a different way of being able to do it now, you know? And more than anything else, bring the positive aspect. Being optimistic about it, and being able to say, you know what, this challenge or this struggle that I'm facing right now is certainly going to make me succeed, because I see it as an opportunity for me to find the best solution and to be able to be successful.
Thank you very much, Alfredo. So now we're getting close to the conclusion of our program. I would like each one of you to think real hard in your hearts. What is your last advice you'll have for somebody that is thinking to enter into the corporate world and leveraging the things that you have shared to provide access to the community, to serve the community, to address disparities? So since Ivan, I know he needs to leave, he's in Mexico, so I'm gonna give Ivan the first opportunity to speak. So Ivan, you can tell us what advice you have for somebody that want to be like you when they grow up.
So what advice can I give somebody? I'd say just get involved and look for the company that you're going to work for, and try to find out if you have a company in mind, try to see who they're partnering with and what their mission is. Every company is a little different. Having worked for 3 big banks or 2 big banks and 1 small bank, I can tell you that each one focused on different things. And also just get connected with the people that are already helping the community. So the chambers and the organizations that are out there. But more importantly, just get involved with a company, go work for the company. And once you're inside, you'll be able to get a better feel for what they're looking to accomplish and see if that aligns with what you want to do as well.
Thank you, Ivan. So mission of the organization that you're going to join is important. So Andres, what advice do you have for people?
Yeah, so a couple of things. Number one is be proud of whom you are, of our culture, of our heritage, of our language. I will tell you, growing up, and especially I had a couple of encounters in corporate America where I was told, you know, you're not good enough because you don't look a certain way, you have the Gonzalez last name, and certainly I have an accent, right? And so the accent was actually perceived as a deficit, not as an asset. And so I will say, leverage that, seize the moment, get involved. I actually started taking stretch assignments. I was very lucky that I've had great mentors along the way who really have poured into my life. And so I will say to anyone who's out there, if you don't have a mentor right now, seek a mentor, connect with people. That is powerful. I don't think that any one of us would be here today as part of the panel, right, if we did not leverage some of those opportunities, because I think that that's important. And then I will say, understand well your craft, do your homework, and become good at what you do. I get a sense, and actually, as Amanda mentioned, I also have 4 boys. I have 2 big boys that they're already men, and I have 2 other guys that are kind of in middle school and high school. And I tell my boys all the time, it's like, you cannot cut corners. You got to get really good at what you do, because we get sometimes into the mentality that I want to get promoted. And the problem with wanting to get promoted and not being good at what we do every step of the way is that by the time you make it into the C-suite, you have all these gaps. And unfortunately, you're not going to be prepared, right? Or positioned for success. So do your homework, get well at what you do. And when you don't know where you need to go, that's where mentors and sponsors come in. But I think that those are really key, things that I would actually advise someone, right? Or tell myself if I was actually 17 years old again, right? To really start launching my career and setting myself right for those career aspirational goals that I had. So those would be things that I think could help anyone along the way.
Thank you, Andres. So be proud of your culture and who you are. Get involved, seek a mentor, and understand your craft. Amanda, what would you have for us? What would be your advice?
My advice would be that, use what you have, who you are, but definitely build your skill set along the way, so that you're the best at whatever it is that you do. Also, to echo a little bit of what Yvonne had said, you are the only person that limits your opportunities. The sky is the limit until you realize that, someone stepped on the moon. I stole that quote from Pitbull, So just keep going. Don't be afraid to use your voice. We all have a voice. And if you have something to say, or you have an idea, if you want to move up, a promotion, get more training, whatever it is, don't be afraid to ask, and to ask someone higher than you or higher than your manager, what have you. Don't be afraid to use your voice, but just go for it, because the worst that can happen is it doesn't work out and you move on and you learn from it. So just keep going, because the sky is not even the limit. That's my advice.
Great. Don't limit yourself. Use your voice. So let's see what Erika will say to somebody that want to be like her when he or she grows up.
So one of the things I focus really well on right now is our Medicare population. As mentioned, I still do health and wellness, but our Medicare population, educating people on their options and helping them enroll if they need it. So if anybody was looking to do that, it is a blessing that we do get paid to do that, but I really want to say they would have to have the patience to work with that community. It's a very vulnerable community. Our 65 and older, or those on disability, can qualify for Medicare sooner. It's not, just, a numbers game. You have to have the heart for it. You have to have the patience to earn their trust. Healthcare is something that is very personal to people. So you really, really want to be sure that, you're not just going into this, because somebody told you, hey, that sounds like a good idea. You really have to have a heart for it, in my opinion. But if you do have it, just a lot of studying too. You got to stay on top of the changing, healthcare rules, the CMS rules, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid. So just being a good learner, have a heart, and just, the patience to earn that trust, and the patience to build your business too, right? Most entrepreneurs know it's not an overnight thing, and you can do it through corporate America as well. So that's an option too. But again, you really have to have the heart for it. That's the biggest thing I will say before you even consider jumping into this field.
Great. You need to have a heart, you need to be patient, and you need to learn. So Alfredo, what will you have for us?
Okay, here we go again. All the advice that you have presented is excellent, and add you have to start early. You even have to start right now. If we have listeners here who are at the high school level, this is where you have to start the planning process. This is where you have to start the research, the study, communicating, talking to people that are doing what you want to do. That, in my opinion, is the best advice that you can get. If you're already past high school, well, my gosh, we have so many different resources out there where you can go and do your own research. Talk to people, read a lot about what you want to do. Here at North Shore Bank, we have a great program that is being able to shadow someone. If I want to move into a different field, I'm given the opportunity to talk to and go and actually follow someone for a week or two. To me, that is a great way for me to find out whether or not that's something that I would like to do in the future. So again, it comes down with being able to communicate with others, being able to do your homework, prepare yourself, plan ahead of time.
Thank you, everyone. We're getting close to the final piece of our program, so we thank all these leaders for taking time, these powerful Latinas and Latinos, including one who's talking all the way from León, Mexico, to share his insights, and all of you who share your insights today. Be proud. Let your heart guide you. Build yourself, grow yourself, use your voice, seek assistance, find a mentor. Those are the generic concepts that we all came with. So thank you for joining this programming today. This closes our Hispanic Heritage Month series. This is a 4 series that we had. Thank you to all of your speakers for being with us, and we look forward to seeing you in our Más Fuertes programs. If you have a business or you know somebody who has a business is struggling with COVID, we have programs and resources for you. Thank you very much. Have an awesome afternoon and a great day.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great
Thanks, everybody.
day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.